But if you're watching this, that means that you are still here. And that means that you still have something to give. And that means that you still have an opportunity to give it. What are you going to do with that opportunity? When I was a little boy, I remember watching an award show with my family. I was sitting on the floor in front of our floor model TV. Some of y'all may not even know what that is, but anyway, I remember being intrigued as I watched Gladys Knight take the stage. When she started to perform, something in me was awakened. I jumped up and started to dance all around the room. Shortly after that, I discovered Michael Jackson. Every time I watched him perform, I was intoxicated, mesmerized. Whatever he had, I wanted it. I was convinced that I was going to be the next Michael Jackson. So much so that at all the family functions, I would play his albums and put on an entire show for the grown-ups. In those moments, it was as if I transcended reality. I may as well have been at Madison Square Garden performing for the masses. Unfortunately, in a few years, I learned how to be ashamed and embarrassed. I still sang and danced all the time, but when I actually had to perform in front of an audience, it was on a rare occasion that all the noise in my head would completely shut off and allow me to be transported back to that place. I still thought that I might want to be an entertainer, but I was no longer convinced. Around middle school, I discovered writing, and once again, I felt that thing. It was there again in high school when I discovered acting. But when I graduated, I think on a subconscious level, I decided that those things weren't realistic career paths. So I threw them all on the back burner and went out and got jobs and pursued businesses that I thought made more sense for somebody like me. At first, things were great. I was making decent money, and I still got to dabble in what I now consider my hobbies. Life was good. As the years rolled on, I started to feel like I was suffocating. Every job I had, I hated. And to be honest, there was nothing wrong with the jobs, but everything was wrong with me doing jobs that I had absolutely no soul ties to. I used to think that purpose was this one big singular thing that God had written in the stars as our one true destiny, and that it was our jobs to comb through the Milky Way until we landed on that cluster of stars that had our name on it. I now know that it is not that complex or that serious. Purpose is not static. There are many paths to purpose and many purposes along those paths. It doesn't have to be this big monumental thing. It just has to be in alignment with who you are and what you are. That's it. What makes you happy? What makes you feel alive when you're doing it? It could be anything. I remember watching Oprah on something years ago, and she gave an example similar to the one I'm going to give. I don't remember it word for word, so I'm just going to paraphrase and let them use me. Amen? Amen. Let's say you're a bread baker, and every morning before your alarm clock has a chance to go off, you're up and excited about your day. The smell of bread intoxicates you. You love your customers, your co-workers, and everything about your job. One day you may even want to open a bakery of your own, or develop recipes and write a cookbook. Or you may be content with just getting to wake up and bake that bread every day. Either way, in this moment, you are in alignment with your purpose. Now, on the other hand, if you had this same job, but you had to hit snooze 15 times every morning before you're able to drag yourself out of bed, then even though you're already 20 minutes late for work, when you get there, you sit in the car another 5 minutes and contemplate driving off. The smell of bread makes you nauseous. And the only people you dislike more than the customers are your coworkers. I hate to break it to you, but you, my friend, are not in alignment with your purpose. Are you a born nurturer? Do you like creating things with your hands? Are you a teacher at your core? Or maybe you like sharing your past experiences and mentoring others. Do you love taking pictures? What about planning parties or organizing trips? What gets your motor running? I recently got to observe a young lady as she was discovering a new purpose as a community leader or organizer. Every time she talked about it, her eyes lit up. She was on fire. Unfortunately, Tragedy had to strike in her community in order for her to discover this purpose. But keep in mind that every diamond and every pearl is discovered in darkness. Sometimes purpose can be found down there as well. Some of the greatest songs, plays, movies, works of art, revolutions were created from dark places. If you can't think of anything that might be purposeful in your life, sit down with a pen and pad and just allow your mind to wander back to your childhood, or even a couple of years or a couple of months ago. Write down the times where you just simply enjoyed whatever it was that you were doing. Times you may have even gotten lost in the act. Don't put too much on it. Just allow it to be. There are no correct, wrong, or impossible answers. Don't judge what you write. If you still can't think of anything, all is not lost. It's time to start throwing stuff at the wall and see what sticks. Yep, good old-fashioned trial and error. Give yourself permission to just try stuff. And remember that it's not about failing or succeeding. It's just about experiencing and living. Whatever you think of, you can find a way to do it in some capacity. Remember, it doesn't have to be this big, grand thing. I believe it would have been better for me to have found a job as a stagehand instead of a medical records clerk when I graduated from high school, or to have finished my degree in theater and music instead of becoming a cosmetologist, because I felt like it was the more realistic and lucrative thing to do in that moment. In studying blue zones, or areas of the world where people live the longest, I found that a lot of these communities are purpose driven. Their identities center around their purpose. Some of them even have names for it. The Japanese call it ikigai. In order for what you do to qualify as an ikigai, it has to be something that you're good at, something that you enjoy doing, something that benefits the entire community, and something that you can get paid for. Most of these people don't have what we as Americans consider big glorified purposes. A lot of them chose things like shepherds and farmers for their ikigai, but they do have what a lot of Americans don't, which is alignment with their purpose and long, happy, fulfilling lives. It's gonna take courage for you to pursue a purpose. People aren't gonna understand it, but it's not for them to understand. You have to be more concerned with your desire to live a life that is fulfilling to you more than you are concerned with the opinions of others. You too will find yourself questioning your sanity from time to time. But that's when you gotta go back to that old saying. Insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting different results. You can do this. I believe in you, and I believe that you owe it to yourself to try. Once you have decided on a purpose, then it's time to manifest it. I won't go into detail on manifestation here, but I have an upcoming video on it that's going to be released next week, so keep an eye out for that. I'll leave the link in the description below. I finally figured out that what I was feeling way back then watching Gladys and Michael was inspiration. I think that's what you feel every time you stumble on one of your purposes. That's what I feel right now as I'm making this video. Inspiration. A divine influence or action on a person believed to qualify him or her to receive and communicate sacred revelation. I am thankful that I still get to get and give inspiration. I've had some close calls, but I'm still here to tell the stories. Probably the most notable of these stories is the one where I was in 2 rollover accidents within a year of each other. In the first one, the roof of my SUV was crushed. I did have to have the index finger on my left hand amputated. In the second one, I only received a couple of scratches. I'm still able to walk. I'm still able to talk. I'm still in my right mind. I was spared. I'm still here. And because I'm still here, I still get to get and give divine inspiration. And that's exactly what I'm gonna do. I'm sure a lot of you have been in some hairy situations too, but if you're watching this, that means that you are still here. And that means that you still have something to give. And that means that you still have an opportunity to give it. What are you gonna do with that opportunity? If you've enjoyed this video, make sure you subscribe for more content like this. Now that we got us some new tools, let's build something amazing. Until next time, I'm sending you lots of love, light, and laughter.